Oh, the first day that we signed up for Monday.com, our department was already
kepada kepada ke, tes 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 kepada Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman mahasiswa, boleh kursi depannya diisi dulu? Boleh ya, maju dulu biar enak dilihatnya. Teman-teman boleh ya diisi meja depannya dulu. Tes. Tes, tes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizer, we would like to extend a warm welcome for participating to event Asian Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, deepening AOIP Corporation for the epicentrum of growth, commemorating the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Corporation. My name is Liz. I'm the host for today, and it's such an honor to welcome you all here. The purpose of today's event is to commemorate 50 years of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Corporation and Indonesian Chairmanship of ASEAN. ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, consists of 10 countries: Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Brunei, Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. Over the years, they have developed multiple frameworks and initiatives to deepen ties with Japan. As the chairing country, Indonesia has made mainstreaming the AOIP its theme. The seminar will focus on the economy, one of the 4 areas of the AOIP to deepen cooperation between ASEAN and Japan in the economic field. This event is collaboration between the Mission of Japan to Asia, INDEF, and Paramadina. Please applause to the event. Let me greet our distinguished guests today. Rector of Paramadina University, Professor Didik J. Rahbini, MSc, PhD. Vice Rector of Paramadina University, Dr. Handi Riza. Ambassador Mission of Japan to ASEAN, His Excellency Kia Masahiko. Executive Director of INDEF, Dr. Tauhid Ahmad. Member of the Audit and Supervisory Board, Chairperson Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance Company, Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki. Director of Research Strategy and Innovation, Area, Dr. Vin Katacelem Ambu Mauzi. Lecturer Department of International Relations, Paramadina University, Mr. Muhammad Syaiban. Head of Center of Digital Economy and SMEs, INDEF, Ibu Aisha M. Rahbini, PhD. And last but not least, it is great honor to welcome everyone to our special event today. The honorable, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise for the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Thank you and please be seated. Let's begin our event with welcoming remark from our Vice Rector of Paramadina University, Dr. Handi Riza. Bapak Handi.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is our pleasure to welcome to this important event on behalf of Paramadina University, INDEF, and the mission of Japan to ASEAN. It's a great honor to welcome all of you this important event, especially our distinguished guests, our Honorable Excellency Kia Masiko, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Mission of Japan to ASEAN. Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki, Chair Subcommittee on ASEAN Economic Relation Member on the Audit and Supervisory Board, Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance. Dr. Venkach Lam Anbumodhi, Director of Research Strategy and Innovation Area. Dr. Tauhid Ahmad, Executive Director of INDEF. Muhammad Syakban, Lecturer, Department of International Relations, Paramadina, and our moderator, Esa Rahbini, PhD, Head of Center of Digital Economy and SMEF INDEF. And of course, last but not least, we grateful thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, this year marked the 15 years of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. At the same time, ASEAN adopted IOP, ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, as the main theme of ASEAN development for the future. Japan has become an important part of the development of ASEAN countries. Friendship and cooperation will always characterize ASEAN relationship with Japan. We are delighted the success of 43rd ASEAN Summit held at the Jakarta Convention Center on September 5 until 7, 2023, a few days ago. This year, Indonesia has the opportunity to host the ASEAN Summit again after the implementation the 42nd Summit in Labuan Bajo in May 2023. The ASEAN Summit has resulted a Declaration of Cooperation Concord 4, containing 16 points that emphasize the importance of ASEAN for all its people and to be epicentrum of growth in ASEAN and the Indo-Pacific region, including implementing the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 toward the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. Three main principles in the ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, which are ASEAN centrality, inclusivity, and complementary, continues to be echoed by Indonesia. ASEAN centrality is need amid the dynamic of geopolitical and geostrategic shift in the Indo-Pacific region. IYP open dialogue and cooperation with all countries without exception. This outlook also emphasizes synergy amidst different in the Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific concept and aim to strengthen existing mechanism for facing regional and global challenge. It is appropriate that we took the term deepening IOP cooperation for the epicenter of growth, commemorating the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. This reflects how the ASEAN-Japan friendship will be stronger in the future for guarding the world's rapid change. This our remark for the commemorating the 15 years ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. We hope this seminar will be successfully so that resulting dialogue and recommendation that can be followed up by both ASEAN countries and Japan's. Once again, thank you for everyone for being here today. Let's have a great time in the seminars. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Bapak Handi, for the welcoming remarks. And next, we will have remarks from the Ambassador Mission of Japan to ASEAN, His Excellency Kia Masahiko. Please process to the stage.
So, Assalamualaikum and selamat siang and good afternoon. Dr. Hondi Rizza, the Vice Rector of Pramadina University, Dr. Tohid Ahmad, Executive Director of INDEF, Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki, Chair, Subcommittee on ASEAN Economic Relations, Keidanren, that's Japan's Kadin, Dr. Venkat Tachalam Ambumozi, Director of Research Strategy and Innovation Area. Ladies and young students, gentlemen. So first and foremost, I'd like to express my heartfelt appreciation to the INDEF, Pramadina University, for co-hosting today's seminar. I'd also like to thank all the speakers and a moderator for contributing to today's event. It is my great pleasure to be with you all, many from this university who are taking time to join this seminar. So this year, as it shows, gives us a big opportunity as we commemorate the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan cooperation and friendship. Half a century since Japan started a dialogue with ASEAN, Japan and ASEAN have together followed a path of development, of integration, not only as major trade and investment partners, but also as true friends based on heart-to-heart relationship. So, dari hati ke hati. So boosted by the dramatic development of ASEAN countries in the last 3 decades, it was phenomenal. Our region has grown into a powerful driver of the world economy. I believe it is timely that Indonesia has adopted the theme of epicentrum of growth as this year's ASEAN's chair. And Japan strongly supports the other main topic, the mainstreaming and implementation of the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, AOIP. Japan has been promoting this concept, free and open Indo-Pacific, since 2016. And it was in 2019 that ASEAN presented this vision, and both are synergetic. It was in 2020, 1 year after the ASEAN's announcement of this AOIP, that Japan and ASEAN together at the summit level agreed that we work together to promote AOIP. So Japan was the very first country to support this concept. So given this year's chairmanship, ASEAN Matters Epicentrum of Growth, which is for growth, and this AOIP for the Indo-Pacific, peaceful and prospering together. This is exactly what Japan has been emphasizing in the last decade. And I'd like to mention that on AOIP, we would like to work together to ensure that many countries in the region will share and cooperate with the principles and activities set forth in the AOIP, such as openness, transparency, inclusivity, and a rule-based framework, all presented in the AOIP concept. And I'd like to report to you what took place 2 weeks ago at the ASEAN Summit. at the ASEAN-Japan summit held on the 6th of September, Prime Minister Kishida stated that Japan will support ASEAN's energy transition. Energy is a very important issue for ASEAN, including Indonesia, under the Asia Zero Emission Community, AZEC initiative. And Japan also promotes various initiatives such as the establishment of areas, digital innovation, and sustainable economy center, DISC, and comprehensive cooperation in the legal and judicial fields to promote the rule of law, cooperation in disaster management, food and energy security, and the construction of the 5G infrastructure. In addition, in response to Indonesia's leadership to organize the ASEAN Indo-Pacific Forum, AOIP, our Prime Minister himself attended and made a guest speech where he announced the Japan-ASEAN Comprehensive Connectivity Initiative to further strengthen regional connectivity in both hardware and software cooperation. So that is extension of ASEAN-Japan Connectivity Initiative that Japan announced 6 years ago. So I believe that given all the background, I must emphasize that Japan is the first and also the most suitable country with Indonesia as one of the leaders of the region to work to achieve what Indonesia presented as ASEAN's vision and priority. So this is today's topic. I like to leave other speakers to take note. I like to emphasize one important thing. I hope you remember this after this seminar. That is the concept of co-creation. In the past 50 years, it was rather the economic sort of value chain or response to addressing some challenges that Japan and ASEAN work on, the financial crisis, disaster, or many, and those things took place. But it was from last year that ASEAN and Japan worked together to consider the new vision, that is ASEAN-Japan Economic Co-Creation Vision. And the final version was announced last month in August on the occasion of the ASEAN-Japan Economic Ministers meeting in Semarang. So this vision sets out a clear definition of our future cooperation as an equal partner. Let me highlight the key message. The vision will aim to realize a secure, prosperous, and free economy and society through fair and mutually beneficial economic co-creation based on the trust established over the past 50 years. So it is my hope that including all those attending here as a next generation, today's seminar will provide a good opportunity for participants to consider how to co-create economic and social solutions to the common challenges that we all face today. I believe that the upcoming ASEAN-Japan Commemorative Summit to be held in December this year in Tokyo will surely enhance our cooperation to a new stage and expedite the momentum. And you are the participants. I like to promote two big events for young generation. One is the upcoming Model ASEAN plus Japan, co-organized by ASEAN Foundation and ASEAN Japan Center. Application deadline is the 24th of September, and you can easily find the application website by Googling it. So it's a Model ASEAN plus Japan model ASEAN and Japan. And the other one is it will be held. Deadline is the 24th of this month, and it will be held in Jakarta at the ASEC, ASEAN Secretariat. The other one is more tempting. Generation Z Summit to be held in Tokyo, and to be held, I think, in Japan. And there will be a pre-event, and the call for application is taking place. So you can be invited to Japan. So another application is it's also co-organized by the Japanese government and the ASEAN Foundation. So you can come over to Japan if you apply. So please challenge. So let me conclude by emphasizing the importance of the achievements of our cooperation in the last 50 years. And also to building on to that achievement to shape the future of ASEAN, Japan, and the Indo-Pacific region and the world in the next 50 years and beyond together with our cooperation. Today is the starting point, and you are the participants to transform ASEAN and Japan and the region for the future. Thank you very much for your attention. Look forward to having this discussion with you.
Thanks for sharing with us, His Excellency Kia Masahiko. And then we will. Okay, thank you. We will take a picture. I will invite our Vice Rector, distinguished guests, and to take picture together in here. Would you take a picture first? The speaker, the moderator. Yeah, speaker, the moderator, ambassador, and the Vice Rector, please. Okay, and we will also taking a pic. Oh, okay. Okay, and we will also taking a picture with the audience. We're gonna turn around and please come forward here. Yeah. Berdiri guys. Pastikan masuk dalam frame ya, teman-teman. Bu, silakan Bu. Thank you. This. And now we are going to the main event, which is a seminar deepening AOIP, Cooperation for the Epicentrum of Growth, commemorating the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation. And to conduct our seminar, I will kindly introduce our moderator today, is Ibu Asia Mahfiruhah Rahbini, is currently the head of Center of Digital Economy and SMEs INDEF. She completed her doctoral degree in International Economic Policy from Waseda University, Tokyo, Japan. Master degree in Economic from University of Groningen, the Netherlands, and bachelor's degree in Economic from Faculty of Economics and Business, University of Indonesia. Her current research focuses is SMEs financial access, productivity, and its participation in global values chain. SMEs integration to digital economy, digital divide among SMEs, as well as Asian digital economic transformation. She is also a full-time lecturer at the Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Management, IPB University, Indonesia. Please welcome to the stage our moderator Ibu Asia Makfiruha Rahbini, PhD, to the stage.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. MC, for kind introductions. And let me introduce my name is Asia, and currently I will be chairing and moderating this session for today's discussions. In this special event, we will have a joint seminar to commemorate the 5th year of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. And today's discussion will focus on deepening ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific AOIP cooperation for the epicentrum of growth. And we will have sharing knowledge and then also discussions and how focusing, strengthening the cooperation between ASEAN and Japan, particularly in economic field. So we have our distinguished speakers for these sessions. I would like to invite them to come to the stage. First, we have Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki, Chair of Subcommittee on ASEAN Economic Relations, Keidanren, Japan Business Federation. Please come to the stage. And then I will also invite the second speaker, Dr. Venkatachalam Ambumozi, Director of Research Strategy and Innovation Area. And the third speaker, we have Dr. Tauhid Ahmad, Executive Director of INDEF. And then the last but not least, we have Mr. Muhammad Shaban, Lecturer, Department of International Relations, Paramadina University. Thank you for all speakers who have your time to attend these seminars. And for ladies and gentlemen, for this first session, I will let you know that we would like to have listened to the presentation of Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki. But before that, I would like to introduce him. He is currently a chairman of Subcommittee on ASEAN Economic Relations at Keidanren. And then he is also the chairperson or member of Audit Supervisory Board, Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance. And without further ado, let me invite Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki to deliver his speech about deepening ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific AOIP cooperation for the ecosystem of growth, commemorating the 5th year of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. Time is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Selamat siang. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? My name is Hideyuki Tanaka, and I'm the chair of the subcommittee of ASEAN Economic Relations at Keidanren. I took this position in June 2021. And I am committed to deepening ties between the Japanese business community and the ASEAN economies. I also served as a member of the expert panel for the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. managed by the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we submitted a report to the Prime Minister in February this year for ASEAN-Japan Special Summit in coming December. It is a great honor for me to be invited to this occasion to exchange views with you on this memorable year. I have been engaged in ASEAN business in our company and visited Jakarta and other ASEAN countries so many times. I have witnessed the vitality of the region and the development of each country, including Indonesia, certainly. I feel a deep sentiment of connection to be here and to be able to talk with you all. Next, please. Today I will firstly introduce Party Airlines working on and its policy proposals. It has published for the Japanese government and member companies as an expression of our views. Next, I will present my views on how Japan and ASEAN countries should cooperate and collaborate with each other, followed by an introduction of existing interventions such as business activities as an example of corporate initiatives. And finally, I will mention the direction of the enthusiasm of Japan in pioneering law. I would especially like to ask you my opinion on this aspect. I believe that is also my role to convey to Canadian member companies, but I have learned your expectation for Japanese companies through this letter. KDLA, Japan Business Federation, is a comprehensive economic organization. Members are almost 1,500 representative companies, 107 nationwide industrial associations, and the regional economic organizations for all 47 prefectures. KDLA's mission is to bring the vitality of corporations, individual and local communities, to support corporate activities which contribute to the sustainable development of the Japanese economy and improvement in the quality of life for the Japanese people. For this purpose, KDLA establishes a consensus in the business community on a variety of important domestic and international issues for their steady and prompt execution. At the same time, we communicate with a wide range of stakeholders, including political leaders, administrators, labor unions, and citizens. KDLA encourages its members to adhere to the Charter of Corporate Behavior to establish and maintain public confidence in the business community. It also strives for the resolution of international issues and the development of closer economic relations with various countries through policy dialogue with the governments and economic associations of each country, as well as international organizations. What kind of activities does KDLA do? The slide shows the priority initiatives for 2023. You can see what kind of issues the Japanese business community recognizes and is working on. 2023 is the year in which the post-COVID-19 era goes, and we must work to solve global issues such as climate change, which is becoming increasingly serious, and to reduce disparities among the people and realize the virtuous cycle of growth and distribution that the Japanese government has set forth. This is a year in which the Japanese economy needs to regain its dynamism and enhance Japan's contribution to the world. The government and private sector are working together in priority areas such as green transformation, digital transformation, and startup promotion, aiming to create new values and demand through innovation to improve the ability of companies to create added value and to further strengthen industrial competitiveness. In addition, it is important to create an ample middle class by appropriately distributing the fruits of growth, such as investment in people, so that many people can experience economic affluence and realize a society and a diverse well-being and individual aspiration can be realized. Looking around the world, the global economy is on the verge of fragmentation and the civilian international situation, including the prolonged invasion by Russia against Ukraine. We are also working to advocate for the maintaining and the strengthening of free and open international economic area, so that companies can continue to actively develop the global business. In order to strengthen ties and cooperation with ASEAN, Kenya has a committee on Asia and Oceania with the subcommittee on ASEAN economic relations and Japan-Indonesia Economic Committee, Japan-Thailand Trade and Economic Committee, and so on. Each committee is responsible for dialogue with government officials, meeting with economic organizations in each country, and discussion with ASEAN ambassador to Japan. ASEAN is one of the most important regions, certainly for Japan. Japan and ASEAN are geographically close to each other and have built a multi-side relationship, including bilateral and regional, through the expansion of investment by Japanese companies since the 1980s. Today, ASEAN has been increasingly important to Japan's manufacturing and non-manufacturing industries, and the global supply chain in the region is a source of international competitiveness. Japan and ASEAN are inseparable partners with job creation and human resource development in each country. Also, playing a major role in the regional development.
Is it the page? Is it page 7?
Page 7. Page 7, please. Turn back to page 7. Thank you. In June 2021, in light of the importance of Japan-ASEAN economic relations and the need to further relations and to need to further strengthen ties, Kenya compiled a few of its member companies and published a policy proposal, Japan-ASEAN relations in a new era. The main message is that Japan and ASEAN will create a new era together. It expresses the desire of Japanese companies to build a sustainable society through cooperation and co-creation. hand in hand on the basis of the good relationship that Japan and ASEAN countries have focused. A concrete summary of what Japanese companies will work on together with ASEAN countries is building hard and soft social infrastructure for greater connectivity, realization of sustainable growth, using digital technology, human resource development, and personal exchanges. The subtitle of this proposal is Collaboration and Cooperation. New value will be created in both relations, while continuing the corporate relationship that has been cultivated over many years. Next, please. Please allow me to elaborate further. In this proposal, there are areas where Japanese technology can be utilized. For example, in hard and soft social infrastructure. And then there are areas where we should work together on common social issues, such as a transition to a net zero emission society, building a society with low environmental impact, disaster prevention and mitigation efforts, and cooperation in medicine and healthcare services. Next. We also need to work together to create rules in areas where ASEAN is more advanced and Japanese should learn, such as startup collaboration and the use of digital technology, as well as the realization of a smart city and the digitalization of the economy with the use of data. Needless to say that people are the foundation for the further development of the economy, society, and their relationship with each other. We need to expand human resource development and personal exchange, including in the tourism industry. We at Kedanren are determined to use this paper to engage in dialogue with ASEAN countries in order to realize specific initiatives for cooperation and collaboration. Next. I would like to share my thoughts on the current international situation surrounding Japan and ASEAN, and how the Japanese business community is thinking about cooperation with ASEAN in this situation. As described in tectonic shifts in the international order, if you look at the events with major historical impact, beginning with the global financial crisis, shareholder capitalism in Western developed countries such as the United States has stumbled, while authoritarian countries have increased their economic power and increasingly consolidated their regimes. In the COVID-19, authoritarian countries that were able to experience control in terms of emergency sometimes appeared their certain power. On the other hand, in the US, economic disparities and divided people led to the confusion in the presidential election, which was also perceived as a danger to democracies. The Western industrialized countries used to think that economic growth would increase the number of free, democratic, and prosperous countries. But this turned out to be nothing more than optimism. The emergence of climate change has also brought attention to inequalities between developed countries and the global south, including the uneven distribution of wealth and energy consumptions. Next, please. Sorry, back to the same page 10, please. It is estimated that global south, which is only 10% responsible for the climate crisis, will bear 90% of the cost of the climate crisis by 2030. The world is currently divided on policy values. There is a lack of directions of discussion on these issues. It is precisely that we should engage in dialogue with countries to restore solidarity in the world, and Japan should play a role in avoiding decoupling or de-risking. I believe that Japan's history, experience, and position in the world can be shared with countries, especially with emerging countries. In the early 20th century, Japan was caught in a very hard international situation and experienced a war in which the country was burned to the ground. In recent years, Japan has recovered from the Great East Japan earthquake of 2011 and is constantly seeking a better society by taking a difficult position between the US and China, and by correcting the cause from excessive market fundamentalism, including environmental issues and disparities among people. I believe that it is important to utilize these experiences to engage in dialogues with you and work together to create the society of the future based on the current complex world. And next, please. In this regard, Keidanren places great importance on dialogues with representatives from each country. In early June of this year, the Japanese government held an event called the Japan-ASEAN Business Week. Japan-ASEAN Business Week. His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim-hong, Secretary General of ASEAN, and ASEAN back chairman Mr. Arshad Rashid visited the Keidanren President Mr. Tokura on this occasion. Dr. Kao expressed his specific expectations for Japan to promote a digital transformation, a circular economy, and supply chain connectivity together. He mentioned specific areas of circular economy such as education, program building, carbon neutral technologies such as CCUS, and cooperation in circular growth strategies. Mr. Rashid explained that one of the major issues of the ASEAN back is to realize the centrality of ASEAN by means of innovation, and inclusivity is essential as a basis for this. I understand this as a message from the people of ASEAN. There is a need for a centrality that can be called autonomy. Inclusivity in the sense of respect of diverse countries and their cultures. And innovation to achieve economic development and improve people's lives. Next, please. For the ASEAN economy from the Japanese perspective, I would like to share with you that Japanese business communities' perspective on the ASEAN economy. The reality is that Japan's population is declining and economic growth based on population is unlikely. Japan has high expectation for ASEAN's population growth and high economic growth as well. We are aware that in addition to Japan, China and South Korea are making large investments. In particular, China appears to be investing heavily in infrastructure, including energy, construction, real estate, and information and telecommunications. I have the impression that Japan used to be welcomed for the investments in all the sector, but now I think that the expectations as some countries towards Japan have changed, partly due to the progress in mutual understanding and the areas in which Japan has strengths are now being highlighted. There is also the existence of economic disparities among countries in the region, and that the foundation of the local economy is small and medium-sized enterprises. I believe that is also important to expand the middle class and overcome social issues associated with rapid urbanization. Disparities between urban and rural areas, aging population, are other problems associated with rapid economic development in a short period of time. For example, it has been pointed out that COVID-19 had a heavy impact on the social vulnerable, as shown in the slide below right. In addition, during the meeting with the ASEAN-Back chairman, he also mentioned digital transformation, sustainable development, health resilience, food security, and trade and investment infrastructure development as priority for the economy, taking into account that small and medium-sized enterprise support the foundation of the economy. Next, please. I would like to briefly touch on what ASEAN-Back chairman has identified as priorities for the ASEAN country economy. Digital transformation as a challenge to improve digital literacy and digital infrastructure in line with the significant growth of the digital economy. In Japan, especially the elderly population is facing challenges to improve their digital literacy, and we both are facing challenges as well. With regard to sustainable development, energy transition, the current power source mix is mainly composed of fossil fuels, and electricity demand will grow significantly in the future, and it will be difficult to meet the global goals of the Paris Agreement, even with the current policies. It is effective to work with Japan, which has the technology and is working on the introduction of renewable energies. The Japanese government has set up the Asian Zero Emission Community Initiatives. Many Japanese companies are participating in these initiatives to promote specific actions. In the area of health resilience, considering that ASEAN will become an aged society, 40%, 14% of the population by 2040. Access to medical care and the elimination of disparities between urban and rural areas are also issues that must be addressed. Particularly, healthcare also must be enhanced through the use of digital technology to complement medical institutions. Japan's aging ratio has already reached 29%, and we are working to transform our society so that elderly people can live vibrantly. The current demographic make it possible to predict the future aging of the population. So it is necessary to discuss early on how society should respond to this trend and take measures to deal with it. In terms of food security, agriculture is a major industry in some countries, and the self-sufficient rate is barely enough. It is really envied for Japan. But it is necessary to keep in mind the effects of climate change. Considering, please move on to next slide. Thank you. Considering the current international situations, the expectation of ASEAN countries towards Japan and the challenges ASEAN is facing. I believe that it is important for the Japanese business communities to respect the centrality of ASEAN while working to strengthen the economic foundation of the region in cooperation and collaboration with ASEAN. Japanese companies have a long relationship with the ASEAN economies, especially in the manufacturing sector, as a key element of its supply chain. And today, the non-manufacturing sector is generating revenues of the same magnitude. The current international situation will be overcome by expanding the middle class as the main actors of production and consumption. In addition to physical capital, we need enhancement of human capital, intangible assets, and social relation capital. In order to overcome the current international situation and to rebuild a free and open international order, it is necessary working to develop the local economy and realize a secure, safe, and fair society without falling into the trap of middle-income countries. Next. As an example of what I have talked about so far, I would like to introduce our business's activities of Mitsui Sumitomo Insurance. We operate our operation under the name of MSIG. Since entering Thailand in 1934, we have grown along with the development of the local economy by establishing operations in all 10 ASEAN countries. We have been expanding our network in cooperation with local capital and appointing local management who are familiar with the market. We have grown in tandem with the development of local economies. Today, we are the largest general insurance group in the ASEAN region. Although we are a Japanese insurance group, we operate as a local insurance company in each country, with 70% of our premium income coming from local business. We have been and we continue to conduct our business activities with the aim of contributing to the sustainable growth of each ASEAN country's economy. Our aim is to realize a safe and secure society to support the foundation of local economic growth through the expansion of the middle class and to respect for culture and diversity of each country. Next. In the Philippines, we have established a joint venture general insurance company with our local bank partner to improve the resilience of the local economy. We support active corporate investment by providing high-quality insurance products, as well as convenient products and services to help small businesses and the people of the country for their businesses and lives with peace of mind. One example is micro-insurance. A micro-insurance is a small business insurance product for small businesses, such as an individual business owner. A small business represents 90% of Philippine businesses and are important economic actors in the country. If the business owner is injured in an accident, for example, or if a business asset such as a car is damaged, the business has to be immediately ceased to operate and the income opportunity will be lost. A microinsurance provides immediate cash benefits in such cases, thereby supporting the business owner's life and business continuity. We are hopeful that such financial support will encourage motivated people to take on the challenges of businesses and lead to regional revitalization and economic growth. Next. We are also working to leverage digital technology to expand our middle class. In the case of the left-hand side, we are leveraging our presence in all ASEAN countries and partnering with a global loan provider to develop simple insurance products across countries such as Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam to promote the distribution of insurance that support a secure life for the buyer. In the case on the right-hand side, we have partnered with the country's largest e-money provider to create a system that allows online purchase of insurance. The Malaysian government's policy to promote microinsurance was a boost. The company is working to contribute to the expansion of the middle class by meeting the previously unseen needs of low and middle income people through the use of digital technology. Digital technology is not so much focused on the technology itself as it is about how it can be used as a tool. It is also useful in reaching to customer segments that have not been captured to in the past. Next. Using advanced technology, we not only provide insurance products, but also work to improve the resilience of local communities. The case on the left-hand side shows services that identifies areas in need of road repair by collecting road data and location information from images captured by smartphone installed on the vehicle. If road maintenance in the area can be made more efficient, it will reduce traffic congestion and traffic accident, benefiting both society and insurance companies. The case to the right-hand side is a digital awareness program to cooperate employee insurance enrollees. For the company, healthy employees improve work performance. And for the insurance company as well, it is a win-win situation. Through these efforts, we are working to improve the resilience of local communities through stable business activities and secure livelihoods for the people. Next, please. We also participate in the Southeast Asia Disaster Risk Insurance Facility, a program to support the country. This is a program for the government of Laos. In the event of the flood of the certain scale in Laos, the insurance payments are provided to the government, which can use for emergency cost and recovery funds. The program provides advice and finance services to the government so that the government can secure funds for recovery immediately after the disaster, reducing the impact of disasters on people's livelihood in accordance with the country's circumstances. Next, please. We are a corporate citizen of the country. We also work to improve local sustainability so that people's lives are sustainable. In Indonesia, we restored and rehabilitated the Pariang Wildlife Reserve in Yogyakarta Special Region. In Indonesia, we help to mitigate global warming by absorbing carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas. And also, we contribute to the sustainability of the local economy by providing guidance on the agricultural technology. In Malaysia, for the right-hand side, we are working with a social enterprise that works to improve the living conditions of indigenous people in Malaysia by providing a dedicated fire insurance for homes provided to indigenous peoples who have been left behind in urban areas. The people will be able to live in peace of mind, and the sponsors of these houses will not have to worry about losing the value of their donation, making it easier for them to participate in the project. I believe that increasing the values of inclusion and sustainability will support the resilience of that community. Please go next, please. In closing, I would like to express my views on how Japan should play its role in deepening cooperation and partnership between Japan and ASEAN. And I would like to hear your views later. The Japanese Minister of Foreign Affairs has established an expert panel in May 2020 for the 50th of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation this year. The panel consisted of academics, including professors in international politics, regional studies, and scientists, as well as members of the business community, including Keidanren. After a total of 10 meetings and long discussions, we submitted a report to the Prime Minister as a reference for the special summit on the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation. The report has three main pillars. The first is shaping a regional order which is free, open, rules-based, and fair. The second is building a society which fulfills economic prosperity, sustainability, and equity. This is in the area of economy. Examples include maintain and strengthen a free, open, and fair economy order, development through stimulating and sophisticating the economy, cooperation for social development and equity, and achieve a sustainable and resilient society. The third is mutual understanding and trust as a platform for a renewed ASEAN-Japan partnership. In summary, the report states that the ASEAN-Japan partnership will realize sustainable and fair economic development on the basis of people-to-people exchange and mutual trust that have been fostered up to now. And based on these, realize a fair international society. In this slide, economic activities play an important role in linking people-to-people exchange and friendships that have historically been built up to form an international order. Economic development also makes people's connections even stronger, and it is both an end and a means to achieving a sustainable and fair international order. As you all understand, international politics, economics, and people's interaction are all important in their own right. However, we must rethink the significance and power of economic activities as a key to restoring solidarity in the world, while the international situation is becoming increasingly divided. Next, please. Japan is expected to play a role in solving social issues together with ASEAN countries by appropriately leveraging its presence and influence as a country with economic power and deploying technologies leading to local economic development. Resolving traffic congestion, resilience of social resilience of societies against natural disasters, and decarbonization demanded by the international community cannot be fully achieved without an understanding of local conditions through deep historical connections. What is important is to respect the diversity of each country, link economic growth to social resilience, and work as equal partners. I also believe that Japan needs to communicate and deepen dialogue on what kind of technology it has and how it can contribute to the countries. Japan also needs to contribute to make changes in order to become the kind of society that we aspire to be. Keidanren has been encouraging its member of companies to address the challenges of an aged society and declining population, broaden the middle class by eliminating disparities, and developing highly creative human capital. Next. As I mentioned, Kendall is working to achieve a safe, secure, and trustworthy society and solid economic development of ASEAN countries. In reality, I believe there are many areas where Japan's strengths meet the needs of ASEAN countries, although there are differences from country to country. The Kendall will continue its efforts to achieve concrete results in each of these areas, including the development of social infrastructure, the realization of sustainable growth, the development of new growth areas through the use of digital technology, and effects to develop human resources. Finally, please move on to the next slide, 24. Okay. Finally, I would like to touch on the most pressing issues of all, the climate change, climate crisis. The physical and economic impact of climate change are significant in the global south, and hard and soft social infrastructure need to be improved. In India, for example, insurance is not widely penetrated, and it is said that when natural disasters occur, insurance covers only 5% of the losses, and the economic losses directly affect business activities and people's lives. As shown in the chart below left, Asia is said to have the highest number of people who displace due to weather-related hazards, especially flood. Furthermore, as shown in the chart on the lower right, the effects of climate change can lead to social unrest, conflicts, and riots via food crisis, and increasing inequality due to the vulnerability and lack of adaptability in each country. If the political power of the government turns inward as they are forced to focus on their own internal responses, the international order will be affected. Although a green transformation, such as energy transition, may be able to put the brakes of global warming, it is inevitable that the climate crisis will continue for some time based on the assumption that temperatures have already risen. I believe it is important to work together to create an inclusive and resilient economy and society based on the premise that disasters will occur. Next, please. This is the final slide. It is necessary to respond to the climate crisis with both mitigation and adaptation. In this sense, I feel that Japan's policy is heading in the right direction. With regard to mitigation, the Japanese government has proposed the Asian Zero Emission Community Initiative to promote energy transition in accordance with the actual situation. In terms of adaptation, it is necessary to consider how to support the business and livelihoods of people who are vulnerable to the inevitable impact of disasters. We need developing hard infrastructure to sustain business activities and people's lives based on the premise of climate change. As a general insurance company, we are also supporting the resilience of the Asia Pacific by participating in World Bank and locally initiated programs to play a role in resilience to the impacts of climate change. Climate change is a major short-term risk for the countries of the Asia Pacific. I believe that it is necessary to promote both mitigation and adaptation. Particularly, adaptation is needed to enhance the resilience of economies. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tanaka, for your remarkable and insightful presentations. That we know about the role of Japan, long-time strategic partner with ASEAN, as well as how that Japan cooperate with ASEAN from the business perspectives. And moving along, we have a second panelist. I would like to invite Dr. Venkata Shalam Ambumozi. He is Director of Research Strategy and Innovation Area, and he has conducted research on resources management policies as well as energies.
Thank you and good afternoon. And I congratulate INDEF and University of Paramadina and the Japanese mission to ASEAN to have this symposium, which is a very timely and commemorating the 50th anniversary of bilateral relationship between ASEAN and Japan. Mr. Tanaka have a very good comprehensive view of how this economic cooperation, particularly the business, can promote a stronger relationship that can be translated into well-being of the people. My presentation will be focusing on supporting that propositions in the context of AOIP and ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific. Answering some of the questions under the multilateral framework and why we need to look into a bilateral cooperation, particularly the Japan and ASEAN cooperation. Third and important is what will be the focus areas when we are looking at the future, what are the challenges and how a knowledge institute can help. So we identified 3 areas where we can cooperate together. By the way, I'm from Iria and my name is Anbu, and I'm based in Iria. It's an economic research institute for ASEAN and East Asia, and we are based in Senayan, in Jakarta. We are very close to you. Next slide, please. What is the Indo-Pacific? And many of you know about this in terminology, but if you look into this Indo-Pacific, it has 3 narratives. What Tanaka-san gave us an executive narrative, That is how that agencies like Kedandan can support an open and free society. The next level of narrative is the political or the security narrative. I think what the ambassador mentioned about it. We look for a peace and prosperity. That comes from countries working towards coming together and developing a narrative for the security. That is where East Asia Summit, that is where area was created as a part of this East Asia Summit process. And then ASEAN Regional Forum. So the more is the conceptual narrative that comes in exist in 2016, where the countries coming together and look for a very open and free society. So ASEAN AOIP, ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific is more focusing on it. That is how we can build a maritime cooperation where the countries are in the Indo-Pacific are interlinked by a maritime economy, and then through the connectivity and achieving the sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. But if you look into the AOIP, and that shows that is the narratives for coming together. Here we have more than 44 countries classified into with the different developmental stages. We do have the countries where there is less income, which is usually LDC is defined as a kind of around $1,000 as a per capita national income. So we do have the developing countries, which is in the 1,000 to 4,000. And then we have very few countries which are rich enough. Here we find this classification or the categorization shows these is imperatives for coming together. Where there is Japan need to help the countries. The aspiration of the LDCs are moving towards a middle income. For the middle income countries to avoid the trap and get into a more prosperous or the high income societies. Next one, please. This is where Japan and the ASEAN cooperation comes. If you look into these FDIs, that is the mega trends that is happening in this region, and most of these FDIs from Japan is getting into ASEAN countries, with Indonesia being one of the prime receiver of these FDIs and ODAs. When you combine FDIs and ODAs and you have this kind of infrastructure connectivity happen, that is the story of successful story of ASEAN to tell to the region. But this success stories also comes with different stages of risk. One is the benefits, the co-benefits. One is about this when will this FDA and ODA comes in, and then we find this birth of these production networks or the global supply chains that originate from the ASEAN and end with the global benefit. The second mega trend is this supply chains also comes with the risk, like a disaster risk. Tanaka-san mentioned about it. Then the challenge is that how we can build these resilient value chains. And third one is all this economics has to be resulted in a social outcomes. That is the prosperity, the people-centric. Why that is important? Next one, please. This figure shows that is the how much is the longevity of an individuals within living in the national boundaries. For example, the Japan, which has the 84 years, is a kind of a longevity, it is high. At the same time, if you see there is how much individuals in Japan paying from the pocket, this is the minimum. So we have the long years of life. That is on the right hand side, you can see there is a Human Development Index. Japan ranks first. So you need to improve that longevity of life through these economic channels by paying less There is an efficiency of the economic systems that could be translated into your HDI, the Human Development Index. That is what we are aiming for, what the business is for. Basically, business is not making a profit alone, but it is bringing the services to the people. That is where there is a fundamentals of this economic connectivity remains there. That has been translated into your prosperity. Everyone wants to be at the top of this Human Development Index. Next one, please. But on the other hand, if you zoom in, that is the doing of the difficulties in doing the business. That is where the economics comes in, and this region has the different value systems or the different constraints. So, for example, starting the business in Singapore may be relatively easy when compared to Indonesia. And integrating the sustainability agenda in Laos may be relatively easy than in Singapore or in Indonesia. And similarly, I think the closing of the business is also not easy in many countries. So do we have the constraints in developing an economic order? Next one, please. So IRIA has conducted a reality check, and which I will summarize in the next slides, when contributing for the vision. And we find, despite some of the countries of higher economic development, some enterprises facing this as investment barriers. This investments comes in the tariff barriers and the non-tariff barriers. In Malaysia is one of the countries where find that investment has the lot of barriers. That's why, next one please. So ASEAN is the immediate neighborhood of Japan. So doing the business here, bringing that economic prosperity that could be translated into the human societal goals need a vision. So far, these visions are created in an isolated manner. That is what Ambassador mentioned about it, this ASEAN-Japan co-creation of the vision. So IRIA is a part of that process, and we are committed to it. And the last year, we helped in creating this co-creation of this vision for an inclusive and sustainable and prosperous ASEAN. About 600 billion people that is living in this country. So our ASEAN is basically this co-creation of vision. IRIA being the knowledge institute, we contributed for one is developing the ASEAN as a hub of co-creating a sustainable future. That has been mentioned. I think Tanaka-san and also Ambassador mentioned about the ASEAN zero emission community. That is one of the pillars. Second pillar is a hub for these talents, young talents like you. How we can develop an ecosystem for entrepreneurship. And as well as develop a creation, the digital value systems. And third one is the more about creating a supply chain, the resilience. Creating a framework for the digitalized and the leaner supply chains. So this creative variation can be implemented, and it needs a partnership. So IRIA is cooperating with different entities like a JETRO and Jack Mack and to realize this vision. IRIA has supported, I think next slide please, developing this kind of a vision for 2040 for a Japan and Indonesia partnership. This partnership is identified for 10 challenge areas, and where long-term partnership can be created by Japan and ASEAN. This document is available in the IRIA website. Any of you can visit. That is, we identify the different pathways, how we can challenge this 10 challenges in a cooperative way. Built upon this partnership. There's a partnership with the private, partnership with the communities, and partnership with this international community. Based on this one, and next slide, please. So we upscaled this partnership that is with the India, sorry, for Japan and ASEAN into a multi stakeholder approach. And here we identified 3 studies. Basically, most of them are available in our website. You can see one is that is the study focusing on for a sustainable and resilient future. This study focuses on promoting the trade and investment. And second one is this encouraging the digital and innovative economy. And you can look into that is the contents of this study, and this is available in our website. Next slide, please. Under this one, and we aim for a sustainable future, and that tackles 4 or 5 issues. One is the circular economy, and second is this low carbon growth, and third one is that is the food and agriculture sector. That is how we can reduce the waste. And then the fourth one is the building the professional workforce for the future. This is the study 1, and this has been already done. These initial results are available. Next one, please. Our study 2 is focusing on the digitalization of the supply chain. When we look into the supply chain, it is not only from the first tier of these companies, but also second tier and third tier, particularly small and medium enterprises. How they can bring into it and building a resilient value chain that take that benefits into this end of the consumers. The objective is create a platform where there is small and medium-sized economies and also this enterprises exist along with this big-size corporates. Next one, please. This study will be looking at by applying kind of a methodology of starting at the small and growing into a big. Basically, it is focusing upon this very, very common but yet differentiated framework for the countries within the region. Like what could be the role for Indonesia in the automotive industries, and the Singapore for the logistics, and Thailand in the automotives, and then the Vietnam in the electronics, where we can build a kind of a production network, and each country has its own role, and finally that is benefits has been distributed evenly across the region through the digitalization process. Next one, please. The third study is focusing on building a circular economic value chains. And this study focuses mainly for the electronics and electronic equipment, which is producing where that is the sustainable production and the consumption pattern has been changed over the years. So this study focusing on building a circular value chain for this sector. And here we identified basically what could be the entry points. Next slide, please. We basically mapped what kind of a new business opportunities that is available by bending this currently existing the linear value chains into a circular value chain. Here we find there are several best practices that is available in Japan that could be translated into a new business model that is applicable to the local communities in ASEAN countries that need development of the standards. Currently, very different standards exist in ASEAN countries that need to be harmonized. And then we need to go for an advanced trade openness that is built upon this ASEAN circular economy framework. So if you summarize these 3 studies, next slide please. This is what we got. One is we need to have an open trade across the borders that has to be translated into doing the kind of a lead time for the training and also the trading. Second most important thing is the human resource development. And that is building this academic curriculum and the building training the people like young people like preparing for the future. Third one is the supply chain resilience. There is more among the collaboration among the small and medium enterprises and the big enterprises as well as the consumers. Without the consumers' participation, the supply chain resilience cannot be achieved. Next one, please. So this is one of these, as a part of the studies, we conducted the surveys. And this is one of these key findings and one of the findings of this survey. And here we find there is a mismatch between that is what the business needs and also the currently what is offered by the universities. The curriculum that has been offered by the universities is not currently matches the 100% needs of the business community. So we need to look into it, and we need to start these reforms starting from the universities at the school level, where we need to have a much more technical training to prepare for the future, for the circular value chains, or for the digitalization, or building a better and the greener future. Next one, please. So this is the kind of recommendations that is coming from these three studies that is looking at this co-creation of the values that is Ambassador has mentioned. One is promoting this trade and the investment that need several entry points. Second thing is the encouraging the digital and the innovative economy that has 4 entry points. And finally, building a professional workforce. That very much lies in the domain of the universities like Pardamania and INDEF. That is where they have the role to play. And finally, aiming for the sustainable future, which is the low carbon, circular, and managing the resources. Last slide, next. This is my last slide, and this is about the book. I think this book has been released 2 weeks back, and this is available on the area website, and it has 3 sections. One is how this is, what are the ongoing initiatives that Tanaka-san has mentioned about it, and this also has the questionnaire survey. That is, we approached about 400 people, and we captured what are their challenges, what are the opportunities that has been documented. Second thing is how we can go far from the conceptualization into an implementation, and that is the chapter 4 and 5 outlines what are the entry points, and finally that is the section 3 is about the recommendations for the future, and you can download, and there are few hard copies are available. If you are interested, you can write to me. Next one, please. My email address and our website is available, and you can visit. Once again, thank you very much for the opportunities, and we'd like to interact with you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambu Mozi, for your kind and insightful presentation. We move on to the third presentation from Dr. Tauhid Ahmad from INDEF. He is currently the executive director, and also he holds degree doctoral from Faculty of Economics Management from IPB University. So the time is yours.
Thank you, Asia, for the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. Also to Mr. Handi Riza, also Mr. Masahiko, and also the speaker, Mr. Tanaka, and Ambu Mozi, and my colleague, Mr. Shaban. I would like to more focus how Indonesia get opportunity, collaboration, also partnership with Japan. Even ASEAN country is also important, but I think this is our chance how to enlarge and enhance our opportunity with Japan, because we have a long history since 1970s until now. I think this is one chance with IOP, and also with membership with presidency of Indonesia with ASEAN. I want to more focus on trade and investment, and what kind of the position and also the challenge, and gives some recommendation that might be answer of the government, and also of the business of economic on trade and investment. First, I want to more focus on investment. I think why investment very important since our economic performance since COVID, I think 3 years ago, that our economic very disappear. Our economic growth around 2 or 3%, and then become stable on 5%. But beside our economic baseline that consumption is more powerful rather than investment, so the government give us more subsidy. But I think if we based on consumption in a long term or in the future, it's not enough to make our economic growth become 6 or 7%. So investment is very important to us, and maybe in the second quarter of 2023, around 4.6%. I think it's not enough for our economic. Next, please. So that's why our government, I mean, Ministry of Investment, taking a lot of investor to our country, but the growth, I think, declined in the 1 year. Now is the growth around 40%, and mostly in outside of Java. But the implication for this investment right now, contribution of Java Island in the economy around 52% in quarter 2 of 2023. I think it's a good condition. In the last 20 years, Java contribution of our economy around 58%. This because the investment in Indonesia located it outside of Java. And we located for the foreign direct investment. Next, please, is come from a lot of country. I think the changing position between the country investment in Indonesia, mostly from the Singapore, and then China, and then Japan. And then I think Japan in the position of the Japan around 3 or 4 is quite important to our economy. That's why not only our history, but in the future, I think it's quite important if the Japan investment in Indonesia keep in that position around 3 or 4 position. And we see that another country like US, also Malaysia, also South Korea is already a good position in our investment. Next, please. And then what kind of the industry most valuable for the investment in Indonesia? Because we have policy on hilirization on our industrialization, so the changing of the kind of the investment is very fast, mostly on the metal, good, and also machinery and equipment industry. Because we have to have prohibited policy mostly on nickel and maybe a lot of natural resources. Why it's important to make our industry become have a lot of powerful, and also to support our partners in a lot of country and invest more in Indonesia. Next, and then but the why most of the country interesting invest in Indonesia based on the JETRO survey on the Japanese company in around the world, most and also in ASEAN. Indonesia is more marketable for their company because the market very huge rather than other country. of course, India, the first one, I think, but the second one is Indonesia, because we have a very huge market also, and also huge benefits. But Indonesia, there is a certain industry that may be valuable for the investor, like transportation, equipment, electricity, construction, and other sector. This position made some valuable for our industry to make cooperation, and also good opportunity for local support industry between local company and also international company, including from Japan. Next, please. But the relation of investment, I think, very volatile since 1920. Even the number of the project of investment increasing, but the investment realization sometimes in the long term is decreased. Even the numbers of the value of investment have a good value in the last 2 or 3 years. This realized that Japan's company investment in Indonesia think about what kind of market that may be valuable for the Japan company in Indonesia, but also what kind of the industry can make more easy to Japan company become exporter, because we have a lot of competitive like labor, also maybe some natural resources, or maybe other factors. Next, and the sector that Japan company investment in Indonesia, mostly on the secondary sector, it is very valuable, because the implication for labor and also for the economic multiplier more widely rather than to primary and other tertiary. Other country very fast investment in Indonesia, mostly on the tertiary, because in the finance or the economic function very valuable rather than the secondary sector. Secondary mostly on industry like machinery, automotive, also in the plantation industry. A lot of industry that may be interest to some investor. Next, but the based on the our friends from the IPB University, competence of Japanese FDI in Indonesia mostly on sector vehicle industry. It means that on the automotive, timber industry, forestry, and also rubber and until paper industry and printing. So it means that this is biggest choice to our industry that might be have competitive with other country with ASEAN. So it's imply how Japanese company have a role in Indonesia investment in the last and also in the future. Next, but we have also challenge Indonesia. It's by Japanese perspective, I think, not by government, but the Japanese have review to our condition like increasing of wage, increasing procurement costs, tax burden, and exchange rate fluctuation, and complicated custom clearance procedure. As you see that in the increases wage for the Indonesia, I think even our rates not increase so fast, but if we compare with Thailand and also with China in the last 2 years, our increasing of wage very high rather than other country, around 4%, maybe too much for the Japanese company. I think we have to think about our regulation in labor, Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, and other factors. Second one, yeah, we're talking about the procurement cost. Next, please. Challenge is procurement. It might be in Indonesia to think about how do we support the material, also technology, human resource to support procurement, because we have also regulation talking about local domestic component. It might be make some difficulty to Japanese company, and also local manufacturing costs from Indonesia. I think higher in the last 2 years rather than before, but not so many, not too expensive rather than other country like South Korea or Australia, and mostly on developed country. I think the position of the local manufacturing cost of Indonesia is under the middle, and then the last one, yeah, my conclusion for the investment in Indonesia. First, next please, yeah. Japan roles investment in Indonesia very strategic, even though there are fluctuation that reflect the condition of two countries. That might be growth of Japan's around 1%. It implied that demand of the export and also demand of the FDI more not fast rather than before. But if Indonesia want to more invest from Japan's company, I think we have to make some revision of our regulation on labor wage, procurement costs, taxation. Even we have new law about the tax harmonization, and also exchange rate fluctuation and custom procedure. That's why I think we have to strengthen incentive, and also maybe we're talking about the policy of the dollarization between Indonesia and Japan, not only ASEAN country, but more or less some country that maybe a good side to reduce the impact of dollar in the last 3 years. And the second one, we're talking about the trade. Next, please. Yeah, the trade. Yes. We see that in this year we have problem with the growth of trade, that all country has suffered with the Russia invasion to Ukraine, makes some country I think the growth, their economic become negative or also decrease, and demand of the goods and also services decrease rather than before. It's implied that demand of goods from other country also decrease, not from Indonesia, but not and also from a lot of exporter. And the other side, I think since 5 years ago, there is a lot of change since digitally export more faster rather than good export. This because service export have a lot of advantages like digital data, and then also application and other device that may be more valuable for other country, mostly from developed country rather than developing country. This situation implied not only how to Indonesia to increase the competitiveness of the digital technology, but how we can survive in the change of our economic performance, because the value of the services by digital more valuable rather than goods export. Next, please. And as I said before that this year, because some country the demand of export decrease, it's imply Indonesia export and import also decrease because not only the demand but the price of goods also decrease. Next, please. Like wheat, corn, coal, palm oil, and also nickel. Like Indonesia have coal, palm oil, and nickel because the price is decreased. So it imply to our export to other country also decrease. That's why we have to need other strategy, not only maintain the trading partner, but we have to change to other trading partner. That's why the trade cooperation between ASEAN country, including Japan to Indonesia, quite important. Next, please. And then what happened in Indonesia in trading partner? Now we see that mostly the China export to Indonesia very fast in the last 10 years, rather than the Japan. So it's implied that maybe this is chance or this is challenge for cooperation between Indonesia to Japan to continue our main trading partners. Because if we depend only one country, it's not so good. Because if there is changing in the political side, I think maybe make our economic position also weakness. And then next, please. But we have still believe even our export import Indonesia to Japan decreased since 10 years ago by it's caused by maybe I don't know, because the economic growth from Japan less than 1%. But I think we have to think about how we increase next in the future the trade balance. Even we surplus, but the value more decrease. I think we think about how to enhance this cooperation, even export and import. Next, please. Indonesia mostly on the natural resources export, like mineral oils, and then natural of also wood and other rubber and other product. And we import from machinery, also vehicle, electrical, and other product. Next, please. Because we have a different competitive product in right now. Mostly Indonesia based on resource base rather than Japan. It's on medium tech. So these differences make complementary between two countries. Even we know in the future we have to learn from Japan how we export on medium tech rather than resource base, because value added of medium tech, I think, highest rather than resource base. That's competitive industrial performance that our challenge, not only right now but in the future. Next, please. The second one, even our import quite big, quite huge from the Japan, but sometimes a component of even our export to Japan increasing, surplus to Japan, but the component of material of import is also quite huge. This is because FDI multiplier Japan's company in Indonesia to the import component also quite good. This is indicator. You can see above 1.0, it means that multiplier of the increasing Japanese investment on impact more widely. The challenge, the next challenge is how we maintain, because not only Japan, yeah, China, Korea, also maybe in Indonesia. Indonesia around 1,000 of non-tariff measure of trade barrier. That's why a company from Indonesia or exporter have to compete, have to fulfill the measurement of a non-tariff barrier. Even maybe WTO admit that non-tariff measure, but I think this is sometimes make our company cannot compete with other country, even in Japan's country. Next, please. The last one, I think we see from the U.S. perspective on Japan trade policy that not only a standard unique on Japan, but licensing power, cross-stock holding, also the cultural is aspect that might be important to Indonesia company to fulfill Japanese import policy. So that's why I think a lot of challenge if Indonesia to make good opportunity with the Japan's company or investor, also our company in the domestic. I think my last presentation about the conclusion, yeah. The next one, it's important to strengthen Indonesia industry by partnering more broadly with Japanese investor and accompanied by increasing companies in order to meet the non-tariff barrier imposed by Japan. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tahid, for your comprehensive presentations. And then we move on to the last speakers. We have Mr. Muhammad Shaban. He is the lecturer of Department of International Relations, Paramadina University, and he has a research focus on government development, Japanese politics, and ODA in ASEAN.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Moderator. So I'm going to be the last panelist for this afternoon, this lovely afternoon. Hopefully you still focus with the session. So it's going to be like around 15 minutes. But first of all, thank you so much for Paramadina University and INDEF and also Mission of Japan to ASEAN that has been organized this program, especially for Ambassador Kia and also the fellows Kia, the fellows panelists, Tanaka-san, Pak Tauhid, and also Mr. Ambu. So my sessions or my sessions, it's going to be about from the how international relations and also economic diplomacy approach can give some of the point or some of the 2 cents about how we gonna promoting AOIP, because after the late Abe Prime Minister's political agenda in Southeast Asia and also in the Pacific, we have, or he specifically mentions about the diamond security. It's a broadened concept by involving in the Pacific region. So when the previous panelist has been highlighted about how economic situation, how trade and also economic and like mostly from the business aspect can deepening the implementation of the IOP. In my session, I will highlight about how government actually, especially in this context, ASEAN, and also Japanese government can make a good promoting to the IOP, because as I have mentioned before, ODA is one of the key successful Japanese economic diplomacy strategy in Southeast Asia. It's quite elevating the situations here, the quality of human research, and also the business situations, yeah, especially after those countries get independence and also Japan reach its peaks economic situation. So yeah, promoting high quality infrastructure development. Through my presentation, I would like to explore the perspective of the ODA to advance the connectivity among Indo-Pacific regions. Next slides, please. So just to give you some of the context about IAOP, it's quite ASEAN program. It's quite international relations jargon. So basically now, after its enactment, we can consider this is a vital for ASEAN nations, yeah, to boost their economy and also safeguarding the sovereignty through standardized legal principles. In the Pacific, it's a legit problematic, and also the area is not safe in terms of the. We have the South China Sea. It has been a big debate between Indonesia and also even Indonesia is not a claimant of the South China Sea conflict, but also it's kind of a debate now. In the end of the August, Chinese government just announced their 10 dash lines. It's again neglected about the Yun clause. So basically, this is helpful for ASEAN country because most of us quite concerns about the South China Sea. It also happened Japan is quite advocating about these situations. Yeah, so we need to respect international law. Another aspects that quite been highlighted by this IOP, it's regarding about the economic engagement and also cooperation and dialogue. ASEAN has one of the key roles, yeah, like a big role, like a play significant role in the international architecture about how they need to, or how they quite inclusive in creating or in generating or initiating any kind of the dialogue. So IOP is one of the commitment, another commitment by ASEAN, but in this case it's a larger one. And then it happens it's quite matched with Japanese foreign policy, which is diamond security. And also this is also economic engagement has been mentioned by previous panelists. Southeast Asia is kind of under the microscope now because of the how the economic growth promising here. So that's why doing the encouraging economic cooperation and connectivity on trade investment and also infrastructure development, it's quite essential, yeah. And again, AOP it's providing another insight and providing another written commitment among the ASEAN secretary, among the ASEAN member with its dialogue partner country, which is one of the key strategic one is Japan. Next, please. Yeah, and also this is just citing a research from ADB regarding the quality infrastructure. It's one of the Japanese key, or we can say for everyone who have visited Japan, how you see infrastructure well developed in Japan. The transportation is quite connected. They have one of the long-term quality of the investment. And then now talk about the as ADB research actually. Growing infrastructure funding gap in ASEAN requiring immediate attention for sustainable economic growth. Despite in ASEAN, due to the economic consumption activities, positive economic growth, however, there is a funding gap to invest or to fund this quality infrastructure. Yeah, not just quality infrastructure, even just a quality. But because of the climate change situation, because of the geographical situations now, this study found that any kind of the infrastructure funding supposed to be sensitive and also give the most highlight into the climate change situation, also the natural disaster aspect. And yeah, this is need urgent attentions for this because despite the trade is positive, the economic growth is also positive. However, climate change, natural disaster caused by climate change, it's a real impact in Southeast Asia because of the geographical situation. So yeah, if ASEAN countries want to accelerate their infrastructure accelerations, all of the funding, the technical assistance must be sensitive with the climate change, also natural disaster context. So it's what basically ADB said. So how Japan can contribute in these situations? Next slides, please. And then yeah, funding gap is real in Southeast Asia. And then one of the key recommendations from those research is to find an alternative funding in creative way. In this case, we can use ODA, Official Development Assistance, as the innovative finance. And I see the potentials to enhance Japanese leadership also in the IOP success. As we have mentioned, quite sometimes, yeah. Indo-Pacific is currently under Japan's foreign policy now, so it can be used as the economic diplomacy. And also based on the research from Ishida that published in 2018, Japanese ODA presence in Southeast Asia, it's has been a good aspect because first is effective diplomacy. So Japan can robust tools international cooperation with Southeast Asia, and also it's really give a mutual benefit among Southeast Asia country and also Japan. One of the mechanism, yeah, it's kind boosting the economic performance in the region, also in Japan itself. And then, yeah, economic operations can be easily implemented under this ODA because it's kind of a soft tools for Japanese economic diplomacy. And then, from Southeast Asia countries, see ODA as the resource as a resource provider. Yeah, it serves as a market production base for Japan. And also this is business environment improvement. I can say because of the Japanese ODA that reached its peaks in 80s, it's already improve the economic situations and also business in Southeast Asia. Mostly after the independence, the quality of the good governance, human resource is kind of low. But after Japan, the expansion of the Japanese economic activity in Southeast Asia has boomed this kind of situation. And then yeah, the most important it's contribute to the economic development, including in education, healthcare, human resource development, also technical assistance. So it has been a positive aspect. Japanese ODA has contributed to Southeast Asia countries. So by using this strategy as the alternative finance, it can be more valuable aspect. Next, please. So yeah, especially now, I talk about the high investment quality. China with the new initiative, it's called is BRI, Belt Road Initiative, which involve loans and also infrastructure project in Asia, which Indonesia and Southeast Asia is part of their blueprint. There is a concerns, yeah, they call it as a debt trap concerns. So BRI loans might lead recipient countries into a debt trap, potentially compromising their asset and infrastructure. This has been a region a debate, while Japan it's less problematic, I can say. When they try build the economic cooperations with Southeast Asia country, and now after 2006, it's become institutionalized under JAIF commitment. Yeah, so now basically Japan try to foster development, trade, culture, and regional stability in ASEAN and Japan. So this is actually can be one of the another alternative funding for Japanese government when they want to deepen the cooperations with ASEAN countries, and also using the AAOP framework. Next, please. So to give the context to people, to the audience that doesn't really understand about ODA. So yeah, this is how Japanese economic diplomacy has been done in ASEAN through ODA program. Next, please. So this is ODA. It's basically consisted of grant, loan, and technical cooperations, while Japan quite generous, yeah, to do soft loan and also technical cooperations. And those technical cooperation, I can say, has been a valuable contribution to Southeast Asia country because we can improve our human resource quality. And then yeah, it's launched. Even the grant is quite small, yeah, compared to another OECD country. But yeah, that's how Japan work in ASEAN. At least they just focus with the economic activity. Next, please. And this is how ODA works under Japanese economic diplomacy. So basically, yeah, the grant, technical cooperation, also loan. So basically work from government aspect, yeah, and also in the bilateral capacity. It's just for short knowledge. Next, please. And then this is the most important one. This year, ASEAN and Japan has entered 50th anniversary of Japan relations. And then in any kind of the diplomatic doctrine that has involved in the relations between ASEAN and Japan, basically economic motive is still the number one. However, as Mr. Ambassador has mentioned before, like now we leading into the people-to-people cooperations or heart-to-heart, yeah, aspect. So it's something new that Abe Prime Minister has proposed. But basically, regardless of the diplomatic doctrine, ODA is still remains still a significant aspect from economic diplomacy or also finance alternative funding source for ASEAN country. Back then in 2000 and 2001, I was work from ASEAN Secretariat, and yeah, Japan is quite generous when they give the ODA and technical assistance for the natural disaster, also climate change aspect. Yeah, we see the shifting. It's purely about economics in the beginning, and now we are facing a different stage, which is people to people. However, yeah, economic is must be still imposed, yeah, for this region. So next, please. So now I talk about the menu. ASEAN outlook of Indo-Pacific. It's consisted of at least 10 aspects. Next, please. So there is an economic integrations, maritime security, sustainable development, connectivity, cultural and education exchange, humanitarian, conflict resolution, capacity building, public health and pandemic, and also security defense of cooperation. So this is basically the 10 key of AEOP initiative that quite vital for ASEAN in order to expedite the quality of infrastructure development. Not all of this become of our major concern, in my opinion, but what we actually supposed to be focused on, next please. Now it's energy infrastructure, yeah. Based on this research, energy infrastructure represent the most critical gap for ASEAN to achieve IAOP success with strong development partnership. We might say that we are growing. This region is quite growing. This region can be a good accelerator, can be a good accelerator in the Indo-Pacific area. However, we still facing an energy situations here. As we may know, there is positive correlations between energy consumption and also economic growth. And in this 21st century, there is also demand to have new and renewable energy sources. While in the region, we still focus on the coal-based energy sources for electricity. Now we need to shifting the situations, and then compared to the other IOP focus, energy is one of the development partnership that ASEAN must impose and foster with Japan. Also, now with the current conditions in JICA, after JICA developed Ogata Center of Research Center under JICA, they also put human security as the aspect of Japanese ODA that should be imposed in Southeast Asia all around the world, yeah, including the natural disaster aspect and also the climate change aspect. And this is quite answering how the ADB has been mentioned, because how the vulnerability situations due to the geographical condition in Southeast Asia that Japan must be, if you want to deepening the cooperations, just my 2 cents is about put energy aspect and fill these gaps with the goals is creating energy security in the region. But the most important also, it's climate change, it's less carbon, and also give the several contexts that Japan has been great in in planning it, which is disaster management aspect and also climate change. Yeah. So I think that's my last slide. I finished in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaban, for your insightful presentation. Now we come up into the Q&A session. If there is anyone who would like to ask, please raise your hand. Please, Mr. Ambassador, is there any?
Okay, I think it's my previous position as a consultant from the Bapanas National Planning Development Agency. That's I learned from the investor from the Japan. Yeah, I think first, yeah, we talking about the labor. Yeah, we're talking about the labor policy. Yeah, most of the Japan of the company. Yeah, I think they distinguish between labor position between the local and also from Japan's mostly on the middle up, and I think the manager and up comes from Japan, but the lowers of the position of the laborers come from the local. I think it's a good point for the Indonesia and also the ASEAN country investor from Japan with this kind of this policy. That's the first one. The second one, I think about the how we even the even the investment from the Japan's company very huge, yeah. But we think that Japan more wide more live on more focus on the environmental issue also, and then it is a good point for the Indonesia perspective. Even I think, but sometimes we have some difficulty on the technological transfer. Yeah. Even this is quite important because sometimes for local company, if we want to enlarge or we want to increase our capacity on the technology, we need a transfer. That's why maybe in long term this cooperation, how we learn from the Japan's company quite important. Yeah, that's the fun. Yeah, I think, but sometimes I think the social issue also important. That's why some of Japanese company have good social relation with the local company. I think that's good point.
Yeah, to compare Japanese ODA compared to another country, OECD or non-OECD, what the developing country needs actually a transfer knowledge, which is the technical assistant that has been quite helpful to improve the human resource quality in Southeast Asia country. And also Japan is it has been well known about the planning process. I mean, when the project is done, everything is basically just implementable. Everything is implementable. There is no additional contract that must be revised because of that. So basically, how Japan put their expertise in the specific country that they're gonna help through the ODA aspect, and also ensuring there will be a transfer knowledge through the technical assistant at the same time. Also, the PPP, public-private partnership, it's quite imposed, yeah, by Japanese government compared to another country. Somehow they involve like a government institutions or somehow it's not a pure market then gonna do that. What I mean by pure market is the business sector. So they invite this like a government state-owned a company to help the process of the technical assistant to the specific country, or the process of helping building certain project, for example. But in Japan, they really see the business aspect. Yeah, personally, I believe with the free market, and also how competitiveness is quite important, because it's going to be lack of the political aspect and like background during the ODA aspect. So yeah, that's why the more quality infrastructure can be happen in Japan because of this cooperation structure.
Thank you very much. Is there any question? Yes, I think we have 3 questions. First, over there, and the second, the man with the hat, and the third one.
My name is Ismail from Triple IU. I'd like to give 2 questions. The first would be to Mr. Anbu. As you said before, that there are mega trends in Japan focusing on diversity, consumer supply chain race, and new social ideals, while also realizing that it's a huge disparity between, in terms of HDI between Japan and Asians, right? what do you think the best approach that should be done by Japan, whether to involve actively in the megatrends happening in Japan, or to remain in its principles to remain to focus on centrality and inclusivity? Because knowing that there is a huge disparity that you mentioned before in terms of the HDI. And that's the first to Mr. Anbu. The second would be to Mr. Tanaka. As highlighted by Mr. Tauhid before, that there is different trend investment realizations happening in Indonesia, which focus more on the metal machinery equipments. Meanwhile, we know exactly that in these industries are played massively by huge industries, huge corporations. However, as you stated before, that the focus on the partnerships that will be done by the Japan would focus on how to grow or empower MSMEs in this case. So what are the best strategies? I think that there would be a clash because you want to integrate or empower the economic structures within MSMEs, but the trend in investment realizations happening in Indonesia would be on metal machinery equipments that significantly done by the huge industries. What do you think the best mechanisms that can solve this case? I think that's my question. Thank you.
What's your name and your institution?
Ismail from Triple IU.
Okay, thank you. I think we go on to the second question. Please mention your name and your institution.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adi Irawan from Student Bank Indonesia, an early stage startup company that works on a financial technology that helps students and fresh graduates to start and run their own business by help to gain capital and support management. And my first question is to Mr. Tanaka. How much do Japan care about the local issue, humanitarian issue, and human rights issues as the side impact, as the negative impact of the national strategies project like in Indonesia? As we know together, we have agrarian conflict in some areas like in Rempang Eco City, in the Batam region, and in mining in the Sulawesi area, and also in Labuan Bajo. How much do Japan and Japan company care about the agrarian conflict in Indonesia as the negative impact? And the second question, in line with Mr. Tauhid explanation and presentation, is it true that Indonesia is no more interesting to Japan investment? According to the survey and report by the GBIC, Japan Bank for International Cooperation, that Indonesia come down and down from year to year. As we know together that Indonesia stay in the 6th position this year, but in the 2013, Indonesia come to the highest position, in the number 1 position as the most interesting country to invest. And what is the main factor? Is it the technical issues, bureaucracy issues, or the political issues that make Indonesia is worse to year in interest rank? Okay, that's my question, and I'm sorry for my English. Maybe Miss Asia can help to translate. Thank you.
Last question. The left side.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the chance. My name is Fajri Ramadan from Parliament of Indonesia. I want to ask the first question for Tanaka-san. in my opinion, in the last 50 years, relation between ASEAN and Japan, ASEAN can be seen as the provider of raw materials, and Japan is the manufacturers of products, electronic products, automotive products, and etc. And but currently, we know that Japan is facing demographic problem of negative population growth and aging society. What do you think ASEAN can do for the next 50 years to fill this gap? We know that ASEAN and Indonesia also have a phenomena of demographic bonus. So maybe this is a chance for ASEAN to not only provide raw materials, but we can also provide human resource. What do you think about that? And also, the second question for Mr. Ambu, from your presentation, we see that related to the skills mismatch, we know that ASEAN have some skills mismatch problem with Japan needs. And do you have a detailed explanation about the position of Indonesia, as we have many students and young people here? Maybe we can improve ourselves to be a better person, and we can fill that mismatch to fill the gap between the economic relation between Japan and Japan and ASEAN, and specifically Japan and Indonesia. Thank you for the chance.
Thank you very much for the question. Now we proceed to the first question from Pak Ismail, Mr. Ismail. Please, Mr. Ambu, would you like to address the question?
Yes, and a very, very interesting question. And Japan has the very high standard of living, and when and ASEAN can achieve it, and what are the means for partnership. I think Japanese growth story is very, very interesting and need to be studied again and again. And we need economic growth for achieving this high living standard. But what's happening in ASEAN is we have the economic growth, and this is coupled with these pollutions, and this is the environmental degradation or the emissions. That is one part. So that the economic growth happened, and it brought many middle income class people, and basically some calculations say about 600 million people has been lifted up from the poverty, but at the same time it produced the pollutions and the emissions. Second thing is it also produced the inequality, and we know the society has been in the past 3 decades, and we increase the Gini coefficient has increased. But if you look into the Japan, I think Japan was also fast growing in 60s continuously for 3 decades, 60s, 70s, and 80s. But one beauty is this economic structure and the social structure shows that is inequality has not widened. And through some of the innovative mechanisms, there is a kind of a public and private partnership, and they could be able to make their growth. It was previously polluting, but they could later cleared off because of the incentive systems. So there is a messages, that is the lessons that is to be learned, where you can have a high growth rate, still you can decouple from these pollutions, and still you can maintain this equality and equity in growth can be achievable. If you look into it, you have the formula how to achieve it. That need a political determination, that need a public-private partnership, that need innovations. Second part of the question is how Japan can help. So if you see that HDI figures, if you achieve the HDI, and high HDI means it's also high energy consumption. I think most of that HDI and energy is very directly related. your per capita energy consumption. But now most of this energy consumption in ASEAN countries, even Indonesia, is very low. If you go for high per capita consumption, means by high HDI means you will be consuming more energy. If you continue to use this fossil fuels, then you will be polluting. So what is the formula? And here still there are options. I think Japanese has the technology. Japan can provide the technologies. So for example, and I'm owning a car, and so this my car, particularly for Indonesians, and most of these infrastructures will be built the future. And for example, you are buying a motorbike, and this could be an e-vehicle, and it could be a less policing. You have the technologies, so Japan can provide the technologies. But the technology is with this private sector, it cannot come free. So here you need an innovation. So the technology and the finance need to take place together. The technology window and the finance window need to be opened together. That is where this ODA comes in. So ODA can fill that happen, and there are values that can be, that is first ODA can come in, and then FDI can bring in later. And there is the values that is come together. So I stop here.
Well, thank you. And then the second question from Pa Ismail to Mr. Tanaka, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. And I understand the Japan companies also are interested in the metal industries and of course the mining industries. But then so such kind of heavy industries, we need big money to investment. So we need to cooperate with Japanese government, like RDA or something like that. So I think Japanese company itself for corporate business, I think Indonesia is one of the focus country for the supply chain. So maybe, for example, automobile is in some final, completion stage. Is for automotive is maybe Thailand, but in the parts parts of manufacturing industries are maybe concentrated on in Indonesia or other companies. So I think so heavy industries is concerned. We need some more cooperation with government sector. Thank you.
The second participant asking to Mr. Tanaka about how the agrarian conflict and HR humanitarian issues will impact on perspective from business to investment in Indonesia.
Yes, this question is very a good question for current Japanese companies, especially for listed company in Japan. So Japanese companies listed in stock market in Japan has to open for the strategy for human resources and human rights as well. So all the companies listed in Japan not escape from such kind of issues. So we should firstly to open the strategy for human resources. For example, of course, we need to release our own company's strategy for HR or human rights, but also we need to investigate the our partners' HR policy, or purchasing company, all the stakeholders human rights strategy is needed to open for the everybody. So I think the Japanese company tends to concentrate on how to inform the the own company's strategy for HR and the human rights.
Right. Thank you very much for your answers. And then with this second participants asking to Mr. Tauhid about what is the issues for decreasing investments.
Yeah, I think in this I think sometimes the investor confused, yeah, about our policy about the natural resources, because a lot of policy on Indonesia government taking prohibited to some natural resources. This is my make some investor, yeah, confused about in the future, because if they invest in some industry, but the supply chain or the logistic they have problem, it makes a lot of costs. Yeah, that's why AU or some country from the US have a protest or with this policy of government of Indonesia. That's my some investor argue to make some negotiate with our government, yeah. But I think not investor think about that. They still believe that Indonesia huge market, because we have 270 million of people. That's a good market to industry product like automotive, also to machinery, and also all the equipment. As Jetro survey on 2022, Indonesia is the second potential market, below India. I think it's a good potential. That's why on transportation and equipment, electrical and construction, Indonesia still believe it good potential opportunity for the investor. But yeah, of course, we have problem with the labor costs. We have problem with the tax implementation of the regulation, and also we have problem with the procedure of investment. I think that's our challenge in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tauhid. And then get back to Mr. Tanaka for answering the Mr. Fajri's question about demographic bonus and how to provide this.
Yes, this is also a good question. Thank you very much. And here the Japan, we have problem with aging. How to protect, how to support aging society. We have lack of or the people to support aging people. Nursing is also lack of the numbers of people. So, for example, in Japan, aging people support aging people. For example, the foreigners coming from the overseas to Japan to support the aging people are very, very welcome recently. And so, for example, for the outside of Japan, I think we can tell how to set up a medical system. Nowadays, digital technology is increasing. So I think in Indonesia, so I think digital may help the medical, even for the rural areas. And to set up a smart city, I think that is well for a nursing system, doctor system or something. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And then for the last question to Mr. Ambu, It's about how details on Indonesian whether it is potential to fulfill the gap in the skill mismatch.
Yes, I think yeah, that is a critical issue for Indonesia, and our survey shows that is basically we interviewed the business people and big companies and whose supply chains are in Indonesia or the ASEAN. Then this survey came that is there is a skill mismatch and the supply and demand doesn't match and that is a chronic issue for not only for Indonesia and most of the emerging economies we are in a situation where two things are happening that is non-stoppable and one thing is the globalization and our economies are getting more integrated and with the rest of the world, and second thing is the digitalization third thing is maybe that is the nationalization of this educational policies here we need to be that is our survey shows that is the particularly for the manufacturing industries that is working in the industrial parks that is we targeted and we found that is the supply that is produced by the high schools and also the universities is not very much enough that is they can take up and they can use that labor force and here the curriculum that is a design that is available that is provided by the high schools or the universities are not enough and here we need to change the menu and second thing is if you look into this is the growth where most of the growth is happening is the one is that is manufacturing industries and the second thing is the service industries and service industries need creativity and for manufacturing this more application of the skills and this is where that is need to be focused on and also we in the Indonesian systems need to be tailor made for the demands that is a very complex and that is the demand is very much in flux and your supply need to be adjusted with the speed at which it is needed, speed and scale. These are the two things that is you need to look into it and there are some lessons that can be learned from the other countries. One is that is how it made in Singapore. I think the Singapore I think that is when the Lee Kuan was the president and when they separated from Malaysia and they put the education as the first purpose. So that is a kind of a first motto and particularly the vocational education. When you have that kind of a labor force and then you have the critical mass, then FDI flow in and then they specialize. They could able to pick up some industry, they can grow. So another story is that is where that is India basically they colonized it as a globalization. That is Y2K problem when there comes basically that is English educated low cost labor basically that education they many engineering colleges were opened up basically they were there is a private sector came in basically some kind of a public and private sector made and where the third year industries come at the third year they can change the educational curriculum basically based on the industry specific curriculums. There is change in the educational policies. Some kind of decentralization happened and that kind of innovative then when this demand comes up then industries could able to provide and they provide the ICT sector and so there is some kind of tertiary education and as well as the higher education that need to be looked in and some models I think industry and the universities and come together and they create a kind of joint curriculum that these things there are a lot of opportunities available.
Right, thank you, Mr. Ambu, for your comprehensive answers. And then I think that's the very last question to be answered for these sessions. And because we have limited time, I think we come up to the end of the session for today. So it was very insightful and then also fruitful discussion for this afternoon. And I would like to appreciate and very thank you to Mr. Tanaka Hideyuki, to Mr. Ambu Mozi, Mr. Tauhid, and then Mr. Shaban for your time and availability for today. And through this event, we have gained practical knowledge and also how to elaborate as well, to cooperate not only between governments, but also with the business sectors in order to strengthen and also deepen the cooperation between ASEAN and Japan, particularly in economic areas. And we hope that cooperation between ASEAN and Japan will be stronger to promote ASEAN centrality and then also to promote epicentrum of growth in the regions. So please give applause to our speakers and have a good afternoon.
Thank you once again. Give applause to our speakers and moderator. And that's conclude our event today on behalf on Paramadina University, INDEF, and the mission of Japan to Asia. It has been our pleasure to host this special event, and we look forward to seeing you on the next event. I wish you all a pleasant day and thank you very much.